Hi, folks. The way some people who oppose Trump have taken to identifying themselves as the resistance bugs me a little bit. I associate that word with people fighting and occupying power, not with people attending government-permitted protests against a politician they don't like. Of course, I don't like Trump. I did not vote for him and could go on at great length about what I don't like about him. But I think you can hear all those opinions expressed elsewhere. Instead of doing that, I will suggest a form of protest that will actually get him to pay attention and might even create some needed changes in this country. This requires me to first make 3 points about protest. First, the ultimate point of a protest is to make some kind of political change, usually a policy change. Sure, they can be useful raising awareness about an issue and bringing people together around a common cause or fight and doing some networking to facilitate future work, but making some kind of concrete change should be the goal of a protest. Hence the phrase, "What do we want?" I find too many political protests these days don't have this in mind and don't provide much more than making people feel good about themselves and getting them outside for some exercise. I don't have a problem with either of those things, but we can do better. There's lots of awesome protests and organizing going on in this country right now. I do not wish to criticize that. I feel inspired by the teacher strikes currently spreading in what we typically consider red states, and by the various groups doing grassroots organizing around important issues. I aim this criticism at protests without any achievable goals in sight. The second point I want to make about protest: in order for a protest to be effective, you need to have politicians who could conceivably respond to your demands, and your protest needs to have teeth that will make them do so. Third, as I pointed out in my video on the Trump White House reality show, in any kind of competition, the person or group that makes the other react to them has the upper hand and will probably win. The person or group that merely responds will probably lose. So far, I have watched the left merely respond to the ridiculous things Trump says and tries to do. I suggest we stop paying attention to this reality show star and bring the fight to him. How do we do that? I have an idea I would like to throw out there. I don't know how sincere I am about this idea, but I think it is at least worth bringing up. I don't know if it is a great, workable idea or a disaster, even if we can pull it off. But I do know we need new ideas and to imagine ways of going forward instead of merely responding to Trump or the other rich fools who run this country. Here goes. As the title of this video suggests, we occupy Donald Trump's golf courses. That's right, we occupy his golf courses, and unlike the previous Occupy protests, we do so with a clear set of demands. Think for a second how much this will get under his skin if we can get as many people who showed up to the Women's March to start an Occupy-style protest on at least one of his golf courses. Unlike many properties that have his name on them, Trump actually owns almost all the Trump golf courses. The ones the Trump organization merely administers, like the Ferry Point course in the Bronx and the Trump National Golf Course in Los Angeles, are actually municipal land, which in many ways would make an occupation easier. In any case, having people squat on his golf courses will genuinely piss Trump off. Imagine an Occupy Wall Street style group of protesters setting up tent cities and ripping up his greens to dig wells, garden beds, and latrines. This would get his attention much better than holding a march he can easily ignore. Unlike other protests, this one will actually affect him because it will cost him money. People won't be able to use the courses, and any damage done to the courses will need fixing. Now, I honestly don't know if this is a great idea or a terrible idea. It presents the potential for a real catastrophe, especially if the National Guard shows up. Right-wing counter-protesters might also show up with guns. They are the ones who have the guns. So I hesitate to suggest this. However, I think the obvious solution to this, so long as I'm floating one crazy idea like this, is to throw out another. We should invite right-wingers and even Trump supporters too, though I think they should leave their guns at home. I know this sounds even crazier, but hear me out because it solves more than one problem and could potentially unite ordinarily antagonistic groups who have been pitted against each other for the benefit of the rich for pretty much all of American history. The white working class Trump voters who have seen their wages stagnate if they can find a job while they and people around them fall prey to opiate addiction, are not our enemy. They are in the same boat as us. They realize this country has problems and the economy does not work for everyone. They realize that the elites in this country don't give a damn about the average person. They just don't focus their discontent in the right places. As I discussed before, we need the people who voted for Trump. We can't rely on demographic shifts to win elections, but we also need them to join our protest if we want it to be effective. If Trump and the Republicans look and see a bunch of leftists occupying golf courses, they will not have any reasons to listen to our demands. They know that none of these people are going to vote for them anyway. But if we get Trump voters and other right-wingers to come out, we could scare Trump and enough Republicans to write some of our demands into legislation if they want to keep holding office. I have made the case to leftists on why we need the right. I will address you directly again in a bit, but now I will make a case to the right on why they should join us. Leftists can listen to this too. In fact, I highly recommend you do because this could serve as a primer for how to engage with the right. So if any Trump supporters or right-wing populists are listening, I want you to know I'm not like the other leftists. I get it, or at least I think I do. The establishment politicians don't give a fuck about you. They scoff at your economic concerns and they make fun of your culture in the media. I also understand how much you dislike people on the left who want to police your language and call you racist, sexist, etc. for things you never got any flack for saying before. While I think we should all try and examine our prejudices, I often find those people as annoying as you, and so do many on the left. I think that kind of thing divides us, and in order to make things better for us, we need to unite. We need to concentrate on the things we all want. Everyone wants access to decent healthcare and education. We all want jobs that can actually provide a living wage. None of us wants to see the elites in this country continue to profit while the poor, working class, and middle class in this country continue to struggle. We all want people to treat us with dignity. We have the same interests, but we need to come together instead of letting those with power pit us against each other so they can maintain the status quo. So now I would like to address the left and right. If we want to make a better country for all, we need to put a lot of effort into getting along. If we somehow manage to get these two groups to occupy Trump's golf courses, we need to avoid the kind of infighting that normally fractures much less diverse groups. So I have a contradictory pair of rules for the left and the right to abide by if we want to make this work. For the right, please refrain from racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, and transphobic remarks. Don't start clapping yet, left-wingers. You're next. For the left, please refrain from calling people out as racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, and transphobic. If someone has shown up, they have shown a desire to work for change. They might not understand how their words come across, and although we should encourage them to understand the plight of oppressed groups, calling people out usually just pushes them away. Now for our demands. A lot of these demands have widespread support from left to right, but some of them reflect my own preferences. People with different life experiences and a greater depth of understanding on certain issues will certainly add to it, but I find this a good place to start. So here goes. First, Medicare for all, free tuition at all public universities, an end to the drug war, which means decriminalization of all drugs and legalization of marijuana with release for all nonviolent drug offenders, student loan forgiveness, campaign finance reform, same-day voter registration in all states, an infrastructure project modernizing America's railways and putting people to work, banning of private prisons, reform bail bond laws and civil forfeiture laws, lower subsidies for big agribusiness and higher subsidies for small organic farmers, increased subsidies for weatherizing and solarizing homes. This would be good for the environment, lower home owners' energy bills, and put lots of small business people to work. Lower taxes on labor and higher taxes on capital gains, scaling down our bloated military empire and spending that money at home. Donald Trump claims he is a great deal maker. Well, let's see if he can make us a deal. Let's see if he can work his deal-making magic to push Congress to enact some of the changes we demand. Let's play to his ego. He wants to be remembered as a great president. A president that delivered all the things we ask for would surely get remembered as one. A president who delivered even one or two of these things would have a positive legacy. Finally, I want to address the thing that most people will object to in this plan. or at least some people. The fact that it involves trespassing on, and one could even argue seizing private property. I think any accusation of stealing from Donald Trump should acknowledge that he gained most of his wealth by stealing from others. Whether it was the taxpayers who have given him massive subsidies over the years, or the small businesses he regularly ripped off and ruined. In the mid-70s, Trump received the largest tax break in New York history, worth $160 million. Over the years, he has received $885 million in tax breaks. Despite this, he still went bankrupt. But, taking advantage of tax and bankruptcy laws that benefit wealthy real estate developers, he managed to stay afloat by grabbing even more taxpayer money. Worse than this, Trump managed to use the bankruptcy laws to leave the contractors who worked with him holding the bag when he declared bankruptcy. This destroyed small family businesses who actually produce things worth their labor, while Trump, who simply makes money from having money that he inherited and could not even manage, profited significantly, even in bankruptcy, because of the way the tax code privileges wealthy real estate investors. If you would like to know more about this, check out what David K. Johnston has to say on the subject. I will provide some links in the description. So to those who say this amounts to stealing, I would say,
steal? No, I'm taking it back.
Unlike Trump, I think we could put this land to good use. Even if Trump does not want to meet the demands we propose, we can squat on his land and use it to create new communities. Communities where much of the food is grown locally. Diverse communities that don't have the features of suburban sprawl we have become accustomed to. Communities people can move around without the need of cars. Communities with homes that use less energy. And finally, communities where the businesses are owned collectively. Now, I would like to acknowledge the inspirations for this idea. Obviously, the Occupy movement, for all its shortcomings, had a huge influence on this idea. But the late great comedian George Carlin actually suggested taking over this country's golf courses over 20 years ago for reasons I tend to agree with.
I got just a place for low-cost housing. I have solved this problem. I know where we can build housing for the homeless. Golf courses. Perfect. Golf courses. Just what we need. Plenty of good land in nice neighborhoods. Land that is currently being wasted on a meaningless, mindless activity engaged in primarily by white, well-to-do male businessmen who use the game to get together to make deals to carve this country up a little finer among themselves. I am getting tired. Really tired. I am getting tired of these golfing cocksuckers in their green pants and their yellow pants and their orange pants and their precious little hats and their cute little golf carts. It is time to reclaim the golf courses from the wealthy and turn them over to the homeless. Golf is an arrogant, elitist game, and it takes up entirely too much fucking room in this country. Too much fucking room in this country. It is an arrogant game on its very design alone. Just the design of the game speaks of arrogance. Think of how big a golf course is. The ball is that fucking big. What do these pin-headed pricks need with all that land? There are over 17,000 golf courses in America. They average over 150 acres apiece. That's over 3 million acres. That's 4,820 square miles. You could build 2 Rhode Islands and a Delaware for the homeless on the land currently devoted to this meaningless, mindless, arrogant, elitist, racist. There's another thing. The only blacks you'll find in country clubs are carrying trays. And a boring game for boring people. Did you ever watch golf on television? It's like watching flies fuck. And a mindless game. Mindless. Think of the intellect. Think of the intellect it must take to draw pleasure from this activity. Hitting a ball with a crooked stick and then walking after it. And then hitting it again. I say, pick it up, asshole. You're lucky you found the fucking thing. Put it in your pocket and go the fuck home. Go the fuck home. You're a winner. No chance of that happening. Dorco in the plaid knickers is going to hit it again and walk some more. Let these rich cocksuckers play miniature golf. Let them fuck with a windmill for an hour and a half or so. See if there's any real skill among them. Now, I know there are some people who play golf who don't consider themselves rich. Fuck them! And shame on them for engaging in an arrogant, elitist pastime.
I don't know if this idea would be a disaster. I don't know if Trump would just come in with the National Guard and crush everyone, or if it would catch him totally off guard. I worry that if he used the National Guard, he would get very comfortable doing that, and it would exacerbate his totalitarian nature. I worry about the backlash against this plan, but I also know that it would put Trump and the right on the defensive. I know it would move the Overton window and make more modest reforms we have sought seem more reasonable. I always hear young people talk about revolution, but without any idea of what that would entail. This seems like a way of actually going about it. The fact that we have such an unpopular president who also has land that would be very easy to squat on presents a real opportunity that resistance members and revolutionaries can get behind. I think even right-wingers, many of whom seem more interested in transgressing boundaries than conserving them, would join in. They know, in their terms, that Trump has tried to cuck them by getting their votes, but not really helping them. So perhaps this presents a way for us all to unite. I realize, even with all the qualifiers, I have presented an overly optimistic picture here. But I think we need one of those right now. We need something we can work towards. I propose it because we need new ideas. We need to imagine something different and how to get there. I would like others to do this as well and see where it leads. I also think we need to think more critically about who holds wealth in this country and what they do with it. Our tax system, laws, and often our culture see nothing wrong with people profiting from merely collecting rent, while most of us sell our labor and often don't even get a fair price for it. We must challenge this idea, or at the very least, we must do so in its most extreme manifestations. We were supposed to get away from this when we moved from feudalism to capitalism. This occupation will require planning and logistical choices. Do we concentrate on one course? Do we just go for the public courses, the private ones, or both? Do we do it as soon as we have a workable plan, or do we wait until spring so we can put down deep roots before it gets cold again? We can answer all these together, and frankly, as a stay-at-home dad with no experience organizing, I don't know how much I can dedicate to this plan. I will do what I can, and if I did not have that responsibility, I would do more. But I wanted to throw it out there for others to consider, because I think it is at least worth considering. No one person can do everything, but everyone can do something. But for now, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you really like what I do, please contribute to my Patreon or make a PayPal donation. I also have some t-shirts for sale. They feature the major arcana of the Marseille Tarot deck that you find decorating my channel. For this video, I have used the Fool and the Star. I have links in the description. I'm Greg Belvedere. Remember, all generalizations are stupid, so never speak in absolutes. See you next time.